All right, this is Senior Project Team W23, the Novelty Ice Cream Assembly Team ethical debate regarding the removal of legally mandated safety equipment from our senior project design. So this debate is based on a memo that was generated supposedly by our sponsor. It's a theoretical memo that essentially states that our sponsor has reviewed our finalized design and has approved the design concept. He likes the overall design and believes that it will effectively perform the duty that it's being designed to perform. However, he has ran into recent financial straits. There's a budget crisis at his company, and he is concerned about the cost of this design now. In revisiting this design from a cost-cutting perspective, the memo states that he has spotted an item that he thinks should be eliminated to lower the overall cost of the design. The item in question is a finger guard above a pinch point between two pieces of rotating machinery in our design. The memo states that he wants this safety feature to be removed. He repeats numerous times throughout the memo that the only reason for removing this safety feature is to reduce costs. That is, he doesn't find any functional, aesthetic, or other engineering issues with the design. Strictly, the cost of this particular safety feature is something that he believes would be easily removed to fix his overall budget concerns for this project. The memo then goes on to state that he would like our team to identify other seemingly unnecessary items that can be removed, the implication of which is that similar safety equipment that is not critical to the functionality of the design itself, i.e. assembling ice cream product, should be removed as a cost-cutting measure. This brings up two relevant NSPE, National Society of Professional Engineer, canons. These are the first canon, which states that if engineer's judgment is overruled under circumstances that endanger life or property, that they shall notify their employer or client, and such other authorities may be appropriate. So in this case, our sponsors are our employer and our client. The only other authority relevant would be Dr. Schuster or Coach Rossman in the scope of this project. However, if this design was going to be deployed to a production environment where employees would be working on it and potentially at risk due to safety concerns related to the design, then OSHA would potentially be another authority that we would be mandated to notify regarding these safety and ethical concerns. The other relevant canon is canon number 3, which states that engineers shall continue their professional development throughout their careers and shall provide opportunities for the professional and ethical development of those engineers under their supervision. This is relevant because as engineers under our sponsor's supervision, and in particular under the supervision of his advising engineer, Ethan, it would be unethical for us to be misguided towards potentially illegal activity by our sponsor. As such, it would be our duty as a team to inform them that we believe that this is an unethical instruction on the part of our sponsor, and to ask for the other engineer involved, Ethan, to review the request and to try to find a common ground vis-a-vis cost cutting while maintaining the ethical integrity of the design. Potential actions that we could take in response to this request, first and foremost, would be to discuss the justification of this design feature with Mr. Zakow in more depth. The goal behind this discussion would be to reiterate the need for a design safety feature which protects the user from rotating machinery. In particular, we could show him the specific OSHA statutes that require rotating machinery and pinch points between rotating machinery to be covered by a physical guard. The downsides to this approach or response to the request would be that it doesn't directly address the cost-cutting needs that our sponsor has presented. However, this does lay a good groundwork for discussing the need to retain this safety feature in our design as we move forward with our sponsor and begin to discuss potential changes to the safety feature, which could reduce its cost, as well as other ways to reduce the overall cost of the design. In other words, this approach or response would be a stepping stone towards actually addressing the cost-cutting measures that our sponsor has indicated we need to take in this design cycle. If necessary, a second approach would be to request to file a design review with a licensed professional engineer, or to file a report with the relevant governing entities such as OSHA or the state level equivalent. Essentially, this would be appealing to a third party to enable them to force compliance on our behalf. That is, compliance with the safety regulations that require this piece of safety guard in our design. The downside to this approach is that it is a pretty combative way of addressing our sponsor's request. It would definitely put us at odds with him, and again, it does not address the cost-cutting concerns that he raised. However, this would be a potentially necessary follow-up to the first approach if our sponsor is unwilling to budge from the position of this safety guard needing to be removed. If we need to convince him that the safety guard has to stay and that we need to explore other cost-cutting options to satisfy his request while maintaining our ethical and legal obligations, then certainly it is a potential that an approach like this would have to be taken. Although, like I said, it would be very negatively impactful on the future outlook of this project. The final response that we could take is to appeal to Mr. Zakow's business background by pointing out that failure to adhere to ethical guidelines would be damaging to our careers as engineers, and that this is a hard and fast ethical guideline that would be violated by removing this piece of safety equipment. This is a bit of an ad hominem approach, but due to the close nature of our sponsor to this project, I feel like he would be particularly receptive to a appeal to this sort of view. Regarding similar situations that could arise throughout the course of a project like this, we've come up with a couple of what-if scenarios. The first being, what if Keith, our sponsor, wanted us to move the gears on the machine to inside of the frame to make the device smaller, but this also would make it impossible to shield the gears, creating a new pinch point hazard for the operator. A second scenario that could potentially arise would be if Keith wants us to change the material of the wheels to mild steel to save cost, but at the same time, this change would make the device not food safe. Both of these what-if scenarios closely align with the cost-cutting measures that were proposed in the first theoretical scenario, and could be responded to along similar lines as the response to the original memo.